Alright collectors, it's that time again. We're setting the budget to just $100 and diving headfirst into the bins, the back issues, and the bargains to bring you my latest list of the top 10 comics you can grab right now without breaking the bank. Whether you're hunting hidden gems, chasing future keys, or just stretching that dollar, this list is packed with value. Let's get into it. Let's start off in the number 10 spot with a rare CGC 9.8 pick for one of the budget top 10 lists. It's time to dig into a new IP for us with the Minecraft Ashcan from 2018. Released as a promotional Ashcan at the New York Comic Con 2018, this undersized preview of 2019's Minecraft graphic novel is the first comic book appearance of the Minecraft universe. And while that may not be super exciting to many older collectors like myself, don't overlook the fact that Minecraft not only has the biggest box office returns of any movie thus far in 2025, even besting the MCU's latest offering before this weekend, Captain America: Brave New World, but it's also the best-selling video game of all time. Minecraft could very well be the nostalgic focal point of the younger generation as properties like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Super Mario Bros. Were for people my age. As I mentioned at the beginning, it's pretty unusual for me to recommend a CGC 9.8 in one of these lists, but the Minecraft Ashcan has been consistently selling for just under $90 over the past year in the 9.8 grade, so why not give it a little shine? Fighting our way up to the number 9 spot, we find the first Marvel book for the list with X-Men 133. Cover dated May 1980, it had taken Marvel about 5 years to realize that Wolverine was the star of the new X-Men team, and for the first time he was flying solo on the cover. This definitely would not be the final time that would happen though. The Chris Claremont and John Byrne story was titled Wolverine Alone, but it's more recognizable as part 5 of the Dark Phoenix saga. The plot's pretty simple. Wolverine has to fight his way through the entire Hellfire Club to free the rest of the X-Men. Luckily for him, X-Men 133 is also the issue where his healing factor became official. I mean, how else could a guy make it all the way through the Hellfire Club's goons? The Dark Phoenix saga is one of the greatest comic book stories ever written, from one of the best creative teams the medium's ever seen in Claremont, Byrne, and inker Terry Austin. While the movies have yet to get it right, the Fox X-Men cartoon series from the 1990s did a pretty decent job with it, but I still think it'll be pretty tough for any format to ever upstage the story in its original format here in the comics. Recently, sales have been pretty consistently in the $80 to $100 range for upper VF, lower near mint grades, making this a collectible yet fairly affordable book for Wolverine and X-Men fans. Coming in at number 8, with a wave of the wand and a puff of vintage comic book smoke, DC Superstars 11 proves that when it comes to DC's magical madam Zatanna, this book has a few tricks up its sleeve. Cover dated January 1977, DC Superstars 11 was the first issue of the series to dive into the mystic side of DC. Previous issues had tackled genres ranging from superheroes to space to sports. Rocking a now classic Zatanna cover from artist Gray Morrow, the 17-page cover story featuring Zatanna was written by Lin Wein with interior pencils from Morrow. There was just one catch. The story is actually just a series of reprints from Adventure Comics 413 to 415 with a few omissions in there to cram it all together and make it fit. Zatanna continues to be a fan favorite character with a fair amount of help from several fantastic covers from Adam Hughes. And while DC Superstars 11 is not her first cover, this is the first cover where she's the sole focus and honestly the first cover featuring the character that doesn't kinda suck. JLA 51 may get a little bit of a pass on the suckiness, but it's just too dang busy to be considered a great Zatanna cover. To stay within our $100 budget, we max out in the VF range for a raw copy of this one. It's a 52-page giant issue, which generally means that it can be tougher to find in high grade. That translates into swiftly increasing prices once you get into the near mint range copies. Crack that whip. In the number 7 spot, you better be ready to whip it good when Whiplash shows up for the first time in Tales of Suspense 97. Cover dated January 1968, Iron Man's longtime villain Whiplash just sneaks into Tony Stark's world before Tales of Suspense went the way of the dodo following issue 99. The issue features a dynamic Gene Colan cover, and Colan is joined by writer extraordinaire Stan Lee for the Iron Man story inside. Lee pulled double duty on this issue as he and Jack Kirby were the creative team behind the Captain America story in the back half of the book. Whiplash was an early baddie in the MCU, kind of. For Iron Man 2, Whiplash and another Iron Man villain, the Crimson Dynamo, got the mashup treatment. It was a little bit weird, but it pretty much worked. Gene Colan's Iron Man covers are extremely collectible, and this one is no different. That said, values for the book have never really gotten out of hand, even when the character was hitting the big screen. High-grade raw copies tend to fall in the $75 to $100 price range when they pop up, which is perfect for our budget, but mid-grade copies can be had for much less than that if you just want to check the box and maybe aren't too picky about condition. In the number 6 spot, we're having one last Archie Comics pizza party in the sewer with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures number 72. Cover dated October 1995, TMNT Adventures 72 hit the stands towards the end of the 9th season of the original Ninja Turtles cartoon on CBS. While the show would have a 10th and final season that ran from September 14th to November 2nd, 1996, the multimedia machine that the Turtles had become was beginning to grind to a halt, which is where we pick up with TMNT Adventures number 72. Written by Steve Solomon and drawn by Brian Thomas, the story titled How the Turtles Got Their Weapons Part 2 is the second part of a flashback story to the Turtles' early days. As most final issues or late-run issues go, copies of TMNT Adventure 72 can be a little tough to come by out in the wild. And truth be told, the last 8 to 10 issues are all pretty tough to find, but the scarcity of issue 72 helps it safely stay at the top of the most valuable issues for the title. Recent sales have been right at, or just over in some cases, the $100 price point for higher-end raw copies. Now, occasionally a decent deal will pop up for one, but patience and luck may be your best bets if you're trying to track down a copy of this one. Tragedy strikes the Stacy family for the first time in the pages of the number 5 book, Amazing Spider-Man 90. Cover dated November 1970, ASM 90 wraps up a 3-issue long battle between Spidey and his number 2 villain of all time, Doc Ock, and this one didn't pull any punches. The battle between Doc Ock, Spider-Man, and Doc Ock's robot arms ends pretty abruptly when the arms topple a chimney from the top of a New York building. On the street below, Captain George Stacy, the father of Spider-Man's girlfriend, Gwen Stacy, dives to knock a young kid out of the way of the falling debris. Only problem is, he gets buried in the rubble himself. Think of the ending of Age of Ultron, just with Captain Stacy instead of Quicksilver, and bricks instead of bullets. Same thing. As shocking as this twist was, it would pale into comparison to what would happen to Gwen Stacy just a few years later. Thanks a lot, Jerry Conway. Outside of the death of Uncle Ben, few events in the Spider-Man mythos were as impactful as the death of the Stacys. Creatively, the issue enlisted a team of legends. The story was written by Stan Lee, with cover and interior pencils from Gil Kane, and John Romita Sr. inked the issue. For this easy-to-overlook Silver Age key, our $100 budget goes quite a ways. VF Raw copies have been selling between $80 and $100 in recent weeks, but with the way things are in the market currently, you never know what kind of deal you might stumble into if you're not in a hurry with this one. Sneaking into the number 4 spot like a clicker in the dark, The Last of Us American Dreams number 1 proves that post-apocalyptic beginnings can still make a killer first impression. Cover dated April 2013, we've talked about this book before, but with The Last of Us Season 2 dropping on Max recently, it seems like a good time to throw it back in the mix. Now there is just one catch. The first print that we've covered in the past has now outgrown our $100 budget, so we're looking at the second print this time around. Lucky for us, the second print features the exact same cover art as the first print. The main difference between them is that the second printing uses red text for the title, where the first print was white. Writer Neil Druckmann and artist Faith Erin Hicks were the creative team behind this comic book prequel series that hit the shelves prior to the June 14th, 2013 release of the video game. While I've not yet checked out the show, I've heard good things about it, generally speaking, though I have heard that the second season is facing some of the same criticisms that the second video game in the series faced when it came out. Now, if that is the case, then at least you can give them credit for being consistent. First print copies have been selling routinely for $200 to $250 recently, which is a pretty solid bump from when we last talked about them. The second printing has been selling in the $75 to $80 price range, which is much more budget friendly. Daredevil Born Again Season 1 just wrapped up, and I'm already missing it. The last couple of episodes were really solid, and I'm looking forward to see where the creative team is taking us for Season 2. One of the highlights of Season 1 was the inclusion of the villain Muse, who's got to be one of the more intriguing villains of the last 10 years. Now with that in mind, let's take a look at November 2016's Daredevil number 11. I'd love to tell you what volume of Daredevil this is, but let's be honest, at this point I have no damn idea, because Marvel reboots everything more frequently than you need to have your septic tank inspected, and I wonder if there's some connection there, if it's just a strange coincidence. Anyway, back to the book. I want to start by giving some major props to cover artist and interior artist for this issue, Ron Garney. His covers on his short run on the title are fantastic, and Charles Soule was delivering on the story side as well. Born Again not only borrowed Muse from Soule's run, but the whole Mayor Kingpin story originates from Soule's Daredevil number 28, which is when Kingpin is elected mayor of New York City. Daredevil 11 is Muse's first appearance and the second issue of the Dark Art story arc. Dark Art would wrap up in Daredevil 14's Part 5, which also features the first ever cover appearance of Muse by artist Dan Panosian. Recent sales for high-grade raw Daredevil 11s have been coming in at that $75 to $80 mark. There have been a few sales in the vicinity of $50, but those tend to be more in the VF range condition-wise. With Season 1 wrapped, you may want to keep an eye on this one and see if the price starts to cool off a bit as everybody starts to look ahead for Season 2. One thing we really enjoy in the comic hobby is a lack of clarity when it comes to a character's first appearance. Typically, we like to point to Marvel characters like Wolverine and Gambit for this argument, but DC is not immune, and we're going to get into it with Detective Comics 524, the first full appearance of Killer Croc. It all started back in Detective Comics 523 when a shadowy guy in a trench coat shows up for the first time. Then, in Batman 357, this shadowy guy is back. For some reason, this equally unrevealing appearance, as the previous appearance in Tech 523 was, used to be considered Killer Croc's first appearance. It's a bit of a stretch, so I'm happy to throw my support behind Detective Comics 524 as being the character's first full appearance. Though, to me, a guy who grew up in the post-crisis era with the post-crisis version of Killer Croc, who was a hulking beast of a Rogues Gallery member, seeing his modest beginnings here as a wannabe Humphrey Bogart crime boss with a bad case of dry skin, it just doesn't hit the same. Even so, Killer Croc is still a great baddie, even though it seemed like the creatives just couldn't figure the character out for several years. Even his Batman the Animated Series version seems underwhelming in comparison to the current version of the character, which, I'll be honest, is not a statement I'm used to making about the show. They usually nailed the characters. Oh, and one more thing, if you're a Jason Todd fan, Tech 524 also includes the second cameo appearance of the boy who would be Robin and the Red Hood. Artist Ed Hannigan provided the cover, while Don Newton penciled the interior story titled Death Grip, which was written by Jerry Conway. Detective 524 has a black background that can make high-grade copies a little tough to track down. When you do find a near mint or near mint plus copy, they typically sell for between $50 and $75. If you're a fan of graded comics and you want to get the most out of our $100 budget, CGC 9.6 copies have an average sales price of $79 in the most recent 90 days, with the last sale of $89 taking place in March of 2025. Smashing its way into the number one spot on this edition of the Top 10 Comics on a $100 budget is a Silver Age showdown for the ages in Avengers 53, where two of Marvel's most beloved hero squads go head-to-head in a battle of epic proportions. But we've seen this before. There's always a bad guy behind the scenes that has pitted our heroes against each other, and it's only a matter of time before they get what's coming to them. Cover dated June 1968, Avengers 53 sees Magneto tricking the Avengers into squaring off against the X-Men, who are coming in hot to take down the Master of Magnetism, and this story continuation from X-Men 45. Avengers 53's story, In Battle Joined, was written by Roy Thomas, the guy who would succeed Stan Lee as Marvel's editor-in-chief in 1972. The visual side of the book was also in very good hands, as John Buscema provided both the interior and cover art. As the MCU heads into Doomsday and the impending entry of the X-Men into the 616, I don't think it's any secret that a large number of fans are anxiously awaiting the moment where we're treated to an Avengers versus the X-Men moment on the big screen. While this isn't the first meeting of or even battle between the two teams, the eye appeal of a crispy white copy of Avengers 53 hits so much harder to me than a copy of X-Men 9 with its crappy brown background behind the logo and split cover with Professor X and Lucifer being given a lot of real estate that could have been better utilized showing the two squads going at it. Avengers 53 is also significantly more affordable than X-Men 9. Low-grade copies of X-Men 9 regularly sell for more than our $100 budget allows. In fact, if you find a copy of X-Men 9 for $100 or less, it's either really, really rough or you just hit the jackpot. Recent sales of VF range raw copies of Avengers 53 have been pretty consistently, again, in that $75 to $80 range, and somebody even landed a CGC 8.5 copy with white pages in early March 2025 for just $103.50 plus shipping. So, just a little bit over budget, but well done, buyer. And that wraps up our countdown of the top 10 comics on a $100 budget. But don't go far. The top 10 comics on a $50 budget video is coming up next, and trust me, it's packed with even more comic book goodness at half the price. If you enjoyed the list, be sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment letting me know which book you'd snag or what you'd add to your own $100 haul. Collect responsibly, and I'll see you in the next video.